Good Friday, everybody, and welcome to the weekly Vasl. This is Ahad together with Indre. Indre, how are you doing?
Hello, quite good. And how about you?
Going well. Weekend means Friday means weekend, so that's always something good to look forward to. We will see what is the plan for us this weekend. I think we have some parties to attend. Me and my
Mm.
wife and my little one, so that's always
Oh,
going to be fun. We're going
nice
to
that you'll
enjoy a
do it
little bit.
together.
Yeah, we're gonna have some friends parties at home that we need to go to, some birthdays and all of that stuff, so something exciting. We're too tired of staying at home all the time. I think it's nice.
Oh,
Although the weather is getting a bit bad, but we'll try our best to make the most out of it. So
nice.
today I want to discuss a little bit about positive psychology, and that's why I have Indre here with us. Indre is a psychologist, and whatever we talk about today, I do want to mention that it is not clinical advice because this is not a private space. And if you want to know more about these things, and if you want to go deeper into it with a professional, then Indre is a professional that can help you out. And if you want, you can always look in the description, and you will find the links to Indre's pages and all those links to book. But before
Yes,
we
or
begin, yeah,
yes, and you can also always go to your family doctor because I'm also not I'm limited to certain people what I can help with. So I think if it's you're adopting, I think it's also always best to go to your family doctor. Also depending where you are located.
indeed, indeed. But
Yeah.
it's perfectly fine. Whatever we say here is just to be taken as education. But that's also fine if you want to reach out to us to ask a little bit more. So, without further ado, Indre, why don't you tell us a little bit about positive psychology?
Positive psychology is like often like quite new branch of therapy and quite new branch of research. However, it was about it. It was also focused before, so it's often quite a misconception that people think that positive psychology is mainly about focusing about positives and thinking positively, but often it's much more than that. It's about also looking about character strengths, about self-esteem, and how all of this contributes to our well-being. So, and what about you, Ahat? When I suggested your topic about positive psychology, what did you know about it? Did you know anything about it before?
I have practiced positive psychology myself a lot. I think it's a wonderful domain, and it is pretty much backed in science. By science, I mean not just social science or like psychological science, but also actual empirical studies in which you see how the brain functions and the impact it can have. Recently, I'm reading a book called I don't even know the name anywhere, but it's called Behave, I think, and it's a book by a neuropsychologist or a neurobiologist, and they're going deeper and deeper into everything, like the amygdala, the prefrontal cortex, and it's explaining every single thing to me about how our genes and our biology dictates most of our behavior. But that doesn't mean it's limited to that. Our behaviors can also change our biology. So that's where I think positive psychology really helps. Like you might be more predisposed to negative feelings because of whatever biology you had or experiences you had, but through exercise of these techniques that we're going to discuss, you can rewire your brain into becoming a bit more positive, for example. So but what I have a question for you is, a lot of time people hear positive psychology and they go like, it's just boo hockey, it's just trying to fake it, optimism at its finest. How would you try to explain to someone that this is not just a happy go lucky, there is something more meaningful here?
Yeah. So, for example, something similar as you say, that we all often tend to focus on the negative and what goes wrong, but often we really neglect the positive in us, and this positive can also often can help us to be more resilient and overcome the adversities and various other like challenges. So for example, if you there's something what is not going well, you can also often use your strengths to overcome these things which are not going well, or often sometimes you can even compensate with the things which goes well. And there's also so much other things that you could learn to enjoy in life, which could also help compensate the effect of the negative events. So I think that's why it's also really important to also focus on it, because it can largely increase our well-being, and also make us more like resilient to cope with various challenges. And yeah, whether for you, when, for example, when we talked like last time a bit about with eating disorders, and when you, so for example, when from the positive psychology perspective, if we were to study it, we would study what are the factors that makes you not to have it, like in which circumstances you do eat normally, what makes you to eat like healthily, or, and then we will look how to repeat that. So
Yeah,
when we focus on this, what works for you already, what and try to, or what strengths do you have, what can help you to do it, and helps to maintain us. So I think it's, yeah, really important to focus it, because it can help to mm, to
I understand.
overcome the
I
problems
understand.
that we have.
I understand. I understand. I really like that topic that you just mentioned about eating disorders, because last time we talked was like more than a month ago. I think even more than that, and that's when I think the little one wasn't here yet. So something really changed in that last month. I told you that I was walking like 15,000 steps a day, yet I
Hmm.
was not losing weight because I was eating a lot of junk food. And you told me something like, yeah, but maybe the fact that you do walk 15,000 steps a day makes you overeat because you think you're doing a lot. Right?
Hmm.
So you
Yeah.
basically are trying to justify it. So
Uh-huh.
that really was interesting to me, because I was like, that doesn't make sense. Well, I am walking 15,000 steps a day. I should be losing weight. But then last month, because of the little one, I was barely walking. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
rightfully so, right? I don't have much time to get out of the house, and she's always here demanding food or diaper change. So I barely walked 5,000 steps a day, barely. And I have a competition on Fitbit with my Pakistani friends, and you can imagine how bad the lifestyle in Pakistan is, that even while I was walking 5,000 steps a day, I was still the number one on the leaderboard every week.
Oh,
Imagine when I
wow.
was walking 15,000 steps. So it was very interesting that I was only walking 5,000 steps a day, but my eating was very nice.
Hmm.
Because we were eating at home, we were eating a bit cleaner, and I was losing weight. I am still losing weight a little bit. So I was pretty confused. I was like, okay, I'm not working out, I'm not exercising, but I am losing weight. And
Yeah.
yet, that could be the reason that I'm eating clean. But even with eating clean, it's just I always try to eat clean when I'm working out as well. But I feel like because when I work out, I give myself a pass in my head that, you know what, I can eat a bit more because I
Hmm.
worked out today. And that's the power of thinking, right? And positive thinking is just like an element of that thinking. You try to justify to yourself anything, right? So we will get into some exercises and some activities on how you can do this, like trying to trick your mind into thinking about the good stuff like gratitude or positive thinking. But before we do that, why don't we take a little bit of a step into the history of positive psychology? I know you want to touch a little bit upon that, that where it came from, where is it based on, and when we can move into the techniques and the real frameworks that
Yeah.
we are going to be discussing.
Yeah, so yeah, very shortly, it's also quite based on the humanistic psychology, which is based on Rogers, and from as also from Maslow, we see human needs, and at least the humanistic psychology originates from Greek philosophy, and so we see it's yeah, quite connected, and it's also not something completely new. And any other like proof to show that it was also practiced before, for example, before World War II, there was like three focus in psychology. One of them to cure the mentally ill, to improve the healthy lives, and to nurture talent. But after the wars, all of it started focusing only on the first one, to cure mentally ill, and all of the psychology model was based on this disease model, and just to cure those who are ill. And I think right now, yeah, many people, when they think psychology, you should go to psychologists only when you are very sick and not doing well. And a lot of us, maybe that's why we are afraid of seeking help. And but I think in psychology it's much more than that. You can also improve your daily life and improve the life of normal people, even if you're not sick. And so now it's slowly coming back, this principle of positive psychology. But yeah, it
Yeah.
shows yeah, how it was also focused before.
I do like your point of view about going from preventive care to prescriptive care. And now also we are thinking more prescriptive, that okay, or they call it reactive care, right? Once something happens, then you are interfering. But preventive care is, no, before something happens, We want to interfere so that that thing never happens. And
Mhm.
that's the trick behind it. The current whole medical landscape right now is functioning on a prescriptive or reactive basis, that okay, once you have a disease, then come to us and and we will fix it. But not that, okay, how can I maintain myself disease free as much as I can. And I think
Mhm.
positive psychology really really helps there in trying to keep you mentally disease free as much as we can. And I do like how it comes a little bit from Greek philosophy, because if you go into Greek philosophy, you do see different elements of happiness in Greek philosophy. So you had Stoicism that came out from Greek or Roman area regions, and there it was all about control what you can control and don't care about what you cannot control. And you can imagine that goes a little bit hand in hand with what we learn in positive psychology, right? It's
Mhm.
the same that you think about adaptive thinking, you think about positive thinking, you think about what you can control. There's no point in worrying about what other people think of you. Focus
Mhm.
on what you can do in with your current actions. And same with Epicurean philosophy of living in the moment. Epicurus was this philosopher who used to talk about happiness being a state of mind, and he would
Mhm.
say that you do not need to be happy, you do not need to have a good life or live long to be happy. You can be happy in any point in time, which is also similar to what we're going to discuss about, gratitude thinking and having and cherishing those memories that you're making. While Aristotle, the third biggest phase of positive psychology in a way, back in the day, used to talk about a good life and happiness being something that you accumulate over time. So once you
Mhm.
are done with your life, only then you can look back and realize that, okay, was this a good life or a happy life or not. Now, this is something that I don't see much in positive psychology. Positive psychology is a lot about in the moment and really like using the tools at hand to bring you happiness or positivity now, not really like looking back. So, with that history, let's move into some of the techniques and frameworks. First, we're going to look a little bit at gratitude, right? And
Mhm.
gratitude thinking. So, what is there that we can talk about?
Yeah, so for example, about the gratitude, it's often like there's so much things that you could be grateful every day. So by noticing these small things, so I think sometimes people have trouble finding it, but they can really take time and, for example, write down what they're grateful for. It can be something simple things for the good weather, for the fresh air, or that you woke up alive, or that you and really take time to be happy about it. And the more you do it, the more you will really start appreciating what you have. Or, for example, that you have where to live, or that it's now peace here. And yeah, for example, me, like one time ago when I started practicing it, I was really in the mood and I was writing even 100 things what I'm grateful for, like every day. And it was also often repeating, and I noticed how grounded and how appreciative I was at that moment. And when I was writing, and now I notice how automatically I just feel grateful about many things. And yeah, you mentioned that gratitude is more about the present. You can also review what you wrote in the past, what you were grateful for when you don't feel well, and
That
it
is
can
very
also uplift your mood.
Yeah, I
Uh,
do see that being a very good use case. I actually do the same. Every day I wake up, I have this planner in which there's like three things I'm grateful for and three things I'm looking forward to for today. That really
mm,
grounds you and makes you think about in the moment. But to be honest, 100 things to be grateful for and stuff like grateful to be alive, grateful to be able to walk. I understand those point of views, but I struggle to resonate with it. So whenever I try to write it, I always fall back on I'm grateful for my wife, I'm grateful for my family, and now these days my little girl is always number one. I'm grateful for Leah. I keep saying that on the thing, but I go like there must be other things, and there are other things, but because I'm so focused on my family and things that give me joy like this, that I struggle sometimes to say stuff like, "Oh, I'm grateful for the rain." That just
mm,
dropped by because it's been such a bad weather with the warmth and everything. I would love some rain. Or I'm grateful for the meal I had yesterday, but it doesn't come to me. So I can
mm,
imagine it is difficult for some people as well. So how
mm.
what can you suggest that would make it easier for people to write things down that
Yes,
they're
I
grateful
see.
for?
Yeah, so for what you say, for you, it's easy to identify like these family things which you're grateful for, but it's harder, I see, for you to find some other aspects. Yeah, so maybe then what could be good, for example, to remember. was there any case, for example, when you were very in bad situation, for example, very wet and you didn't have like a warm clothes, or maybe you were somewhere in the tent and very cold and shaking, or yeah, just to try to remember, or maybe just to see maybe people who are really are suffering and are living in really bad circumstances, and see that, oh, I'm not like this. I'm not in that situation. So maybe that could also help you to appreciate what you have more, and to really feel that feeling of how lucky I am,
Yeah,
and
that's interesting.
to remind it. So maybe, yeah, maybe just like improvising now, but maybe also watching someone who is yeah, not doing well, trying to feel empathy for them, and then to
Mm.
understand like how much I have, or remembering yourself in that situation where you didn't have not been well. Because
Yeah,
I before I used to travel by like hitchhiking,
yeah,
and often and then sometimes when I travel without it, I do realize it how nice it is. And also I used to also sleep in the tent, and when I, yeah, don't sleep in the tent, I also see how nice it is to be in the other, like warm place.
yeah.
uh,
I get it. I get your point of view. I think it's very interesting to remember the difficult times. I do have difficulty doing that because my personality is of a grateful personality. So because we are raised in such an environment in Pakistan that we are always told to be grateful for whatever we have, we never consider something to be bad. So this is
mm,
something I explained to another guest on the show about in a previous conversation, that in countries like Pakistan, India, you have a very bad downward spiral of social security. So there is no social security like in Holland, right? Or like in the West, that you have a net that this is the bare minimum you can go. No, it can keep going worse. And if it can keep going worse, you will always have someone worse off than you. So you will always
mm,
have a reason to be like, oh, I don't have it that bad. And I do love gratitude, but I feel like this is a negative application of gratitude, because imagine if you don't, if you're stuck in a rut and you want to get out of it, and you need to put the energy and the effort to be like, you know what, I'm going to do better than I am today. I'm cold, I'm hungry, I'm wet, and I need to be warm, toasty, and with a roof over my head. I want to strive for that. But you struggle to strive for that because you go like, well, at least I'm not as bad as that person. That person has nothing. That person is on the ground. That person go like, yeah, but at least I have full body. That person does not even have a hand. That person does not even have two hands. And then, see, it keeps going down.
mm,
Then people
mm,
just are happy to be in their place because they go like, at least I'm not as worse as that person. So sometimes that scares me a little bit, that gratitude might enable contentment or settlement.
mm.
What are your thoughts on that?
So then it's, I think it's also in that ways can be as important to feel grateful what you already have, as well as reach for goals, which is also an accomplishment. So it is another also element in the positive psychology. Also look what can you do more, or where you could use your strengths. And also maybe another element is
Mm.
also strengths, to identify what you can do well, and also to use your strengths to achieve the goals you want, and also to reach also for something better and what you truly brings you meaning. And but it's also, I think, often positive psychology is a bit warned, because some people, it's a bit maybe another this economical topic, it can be harder to get out of where we are. And it's
Yeah,
often this new movement, we say like, oh, everything is possible, you can achieve anything.
exactly.
But sometimes it can be not the case, because sometimes people can be really stuck in where we are.
Yeah,
um, but when it's yeah, so sometimes it's not might be suitable for everyone. But I think, to more answer your question, I think it can be as important to focus on what you're happy for, as well as try to create goals and seek for something better.
yeah. No, I understand your point of view, and I agree with you that it needs to be a balance and it needs to be mixed. And we have discussed, we will discuss goals and accomplishments down the road. But let's move on to one of the other topics. It's what Epicurus also talked about, as I mentioned before, savoring positive moments. So, can you tell me a little bit more about what that means in positive psychology?
It's also a bit can be a bit related to the gratitude, to really taking the time to appreciate also the daily life. So I think I might it might be difficult for you because you seem to be a very social and active person. It often requires a lot of ca- peace and calmness and enjoying the moment. So, for example, when you are drinking tea or drinking coffee or eating something, to really taking time to do it. For example, to once I also did one exercise in one organization that we had food, and before we ate the food, we spent maybe like 1 hour. Maybe thinking about it. So, for example, how that food was grown, and really thinking that this food was someone grown, how it was transported to you, how someone washed that food for you, and how now it's here, and trying to really smell it, feel the texture, feel the taste. Yeah, this is the longest version possible. I think what you could do, but if you just whatever you do, try to really see it and try to really feel it without hurrying, without it's also a bit a skill. You might some thoughts might come, but trying to really focus on what you do on the meal, or on it's not can be not only with food, it can be if you are taking a walk, to really try to appreciate the surroundings that you have, and to when before I also suggested this mindfulness in the nature, it could also be used there, that you really look what is there and really try to appreciate it, and appreciate the smell, and try to feel different senses. So but being in the moment and trying to see the best possible in that moment.
Mm. And I understand, and I can see the value of it. But if I have to ask you, after doing that 1 hour exercise about the food, how did the food taste?
Very good. I think,
Yeah,
I think we mainly did with fruits, but with grapes, and I think it felt. I think it felt very good, and maybe I don't know. Maybe I like now grapes a lot, maybe because of that. So yeah, the food felt really, really nice.
yeah. And I do like the concept, but I also struggle with the practicality of it sometimes. That, okay, if I have to wait so long to eat my food or take it so slow every single time while I'm eating, it can become a bother. But I do agree because I'm a fast eater. So my wife always complains to me, and one of the reasons that I also have this eating disorder issue, right, is because I eat fast. So when you eat fast, you do not feel full. By the time you overeat, then your brain finally registers that, oh hey, by the way, you're full, and then now you feel overfull because you're eating too fast. So I am a fast eater, so I never understood the concept of slow eating. My wife would be like, you're not enjoying it, you're not really. I'm like, I am enjoying it, I can taste all the flavors, I can taste this, I can taste that, I can taste this, I can taste that, but I just don't need to, like, I don't need to chew it in my mouth for like half a minute or a minute to enjoy the taste. I can just eat it, taste it, and then I swallow it and I go for the next bite. And you can imagine how difficult that becomes when we're going out to eat together, because whenever we go out to eat together while we're on a date or something, I'm done with my food 20 minutes before she's done with her food, and then the next 20 minutes I'm just waiting. And I'm just looking at her, I'm looking here and there, and she's getting annoyed because she's like, do something. And I'm like, yeah, but I cannot be on my phone, that's rude. But you're eating, so we can't talk, so what do we do? And now I'm just like waiting, maybe just drinking a lot of water, waiting for her to be done. And she says that she feels a lot of pressure to finish fast because I've taken so fast to eat. So it is very difficult for people like me to take it slow. So, do you have any tips that can make it a bit easier for us to
Yeah.
take it
Yeah,
slow?
maybe this 1 hour I think is the highest, longest possible. So I think it's not necessarily something to aim now, but for example, you could try to aim for 5 minutes. Try to
Yeah.
like with five, or maybe even to begin 2 minutes. To try to and every day try to increase it a little bit. At least like 2 minutes in the day, I will try to eat really slowly and really try to feel what I eat. And because you're used to it, so it will be like not possible to change it immediately, and bit by bit to change. And it's also a skill for you. It's also a bit some kind of mindfulness as well. It could also in general make you feel less stress, can make you feel more relaxed, not only by increasing positive emotions. So I think the more you will do it, the easier it will be. But Something, yeah, maybe in a year, if you practice 1 year, maybe you could achieve to being that.
Maybe.
I think it's also important to also see the benefit, and to realize that, yeah, it could be useful for me to learn to slow down. And because also
Yeah.
when you slow down, you start to think mindfully, and maybe also get you also already have a lot of good ideas, but yeah, it could also make you, yeah,
Yeah.
increase your well-being in general.
Yeah, indeed, indeed. No, I do agree with you. And I do think you really need to be in the moment. One thing I really, really do not like these days of this culture is our photo culture. Um, you cannot really be in the moment when the first thing that comes to you in the moment is to wait, I need to take a photo of this moment so I can remember this moment.
Mhm.
Kind of feels like an oxymoron, right? You want to enjoy this moment, you want to take it in, but you also want to take a memory of it. And then you get out of this moment to take out your phone and then take a good photo and then look at the photo while you're missing out on the real thing. It could be a sunset, it could be good food. And these days it is my daughter, right? So I'm like enjoying with my daughter, but my wife goes like, let me take some pictures and let me take some videos, and I just get out of it. I'm like, but I was really enjoying with her. Now I feel like I'm posing. When she's enjoying her moment, she goes like, "Can you get the camera? Can you get the camera?" She's smiling right now, and I'm like, "Yeah." And I run, and I'm like, "Yeah," but I didn't even see her smile. I ran to get the camera because he asked me to get the camera, but I didn't even see her smile because I was running to get the camera. So you can see the problem with modern society. A lot of people go to camera concerts and festivals, and all they're doing is just they have their camera on like this, and they just in, they say they're enjoying, but I don't know. There was study after study that said that people who did not record do feel like they enjoyed the concert more, but the people who took photos had less regret later on because they had a memory of the concert, while the people who enjoyed it more at the moment did regret not having some recordings or some photos to look back to. So
Yeah,
how do we fix that?
yeah.
That's my question to you.
Yeah. Yeah, how to fix that? Yeah, but that sometimes people really get into the moment of just taking pictures. So I think maybe it's maybe how it comes to me is not if you just take a picture 1 second, 2 seconds, and you forget. But maybe like some people want to like constantly want to take pictures, post it on social media, and then many things we do starts to be just that they could post on social media to share to others, and not because they themselves truly enjoy it. And yeah, what other trend I often see that people yeah, they always in this concert, I'm here, but yeah, often what motivates them to go is the social approval that maybe they could later share about it to others. Yes, I think, and this other thing, I think what is also good to remember to why I'm also to remember why I'm doing this, and to try to, yeah, I'm doing it for myself, and to try to be there and to see these benefits.
Hmm.
Yeah,
I
but yeah,
get it.
when
I get it. I get it. And
uh,
I do understand this issue with social approval, and I do understand that sometimes people do not really have the intentionality behind it, right? They don't know sometimes why they're doing what they're doing. It becomes like instinctual. Like for my
mhm,
wife, it's instinctual. She literally is enjoying with the baby, and the baby smiles, and the first thing in her mind is like, okay, where's the camera? I need to take a photo. And I'm like, yeah, but why is that the first thought that comes into your head? Where is the intentionality behind it? And this is a good segue into our next topic, which is mindfulness. Now, this is a very, very heavy topic, right? Mindfulness, you hear it everywhere. It's mainstream. Everyone knows about it. So why don't you explain a little bit about what mindfulness is?
mhm. Yeah, so it's also there's also many type of mindfulness. It's also often originates from meditation. I think like practiced in various places. I think when people sometimes they, I think before this movement they heard became a bit scared because they felt like, oh, it's associated with some kind of religion. But now we adapted mindfulness, which is more scientific based and researched. So it's also various ways that learn people to be in the moment also, and to let it be. Like it can be in mindfulness itself, there's various strategies ranging like from the body scan, which makes you relax more in the body, and also very useful for people who feel sometimes more tense. There's also some muscle relaxation. There's also a meditation which focuses on your breath and also comes to helps to relax. And it's also, I often see it more as a training. You train your mind to be. calm. And when I first started practicing it, I felt like, oh, my mind wonders something, and I was thinking like guilty, and I was thinking I'm not doing it correctly. But I think this is like might be always like that, and the goal is to keep your thoughts in the background, and more to focus on anything else that you do at that moment. And when you notice it comes to you, just to bring your moment focus back. So now when I do this mindfulness, if I start thinking about something else, I just gently come back, and I'm no longer with feeling bad that I'm thinking about something else. And yeah, so for example, when I do this mindfulness, when I stop it, it feels like after a good night's sleep,
Hmm.
especially when you do it long. So often they recommend to do at least 30 minutes per day or minimum, so sometimes longer. And for those who have never done it, can be really hard. But if you do it every day, it can be like things that you like the most, because like every day I do different things. Sometimes muscle relaxation, sometimes observing, sometimes the breath. When you combine it the way you like, it can yeah, reduce and increase the well-being as well. And it's also a bit related with savoring and trying to whatever you do to try to be also mindful when you are with a daughter, to fully focus on her, or when you are at work to try to truly be there. And the more you do it, and also during the day, you will also be more in the moment, and it could also make you more resilient. And
Yeah.
if there's stressful situation, you can also come back to it quicker. And it's also why also like a muscle, because when, as I mentioned, when anxious situations do come, or when stressful situations come, you easier come back to the baseline,
Yeah.
because when you taught the skill of calming yourself down.
Yeah, I have been doing mindfulness for years now, meditation, but I struggle to get past 10 minutes. Sometimes I did 20, 30 minutes, but that was guided meditation. So there's always someone talking to me a little bit. And because of that, I remember and then I come back because almost always I lose my train of thought and I'm starting thinking about multiple things or I fall asleep. And that happens to
Mm.
me a lot that I just fall asleep while meditating, especially if it's like a 30-minute meditation. So 30 minutes I have tried, but it becomes difficult because just to stay with your breath for that long, as I said, you either fall asleep or you lose your train of thought. There's this one variation of this. It's called the Wim Hof method. Have you heard about that?
I think a bit, yes.
And the Wim Hof method, for those who don't know, is basically more intense breathing, and it's more. So mindfulness is all about feelings and thought processes and thinking, feeling nice. But Wim Hof is very like more evidence based than by evidence based I mean more physical than mental. What it does, it is trying to make you like into something. So the Wim Hof method says, okay, you will be able to withstand more cold, you'll be able to withstand more this, more that, and that can happen. And I did do it quite intensely for a few weeks, and I might say it feels very nice after 30 minutes of the Wim Hof breathing exercises because you're doing such deep breathing that you don't do when you're doing meditation. But then that becomes your goal. Then you're not really being under the blue sky or something like that. You're literally like focusing like and you go deeper and deeper and deeper till you're breathing in for like almost like 30 seconds or something. That's how deep your breath gets because you're again training yourself, right? You're stretching your limit again and again and again. It was intense, it was nice, but yeah, I don't know how to feel about it. But have you ever had an experience with the Wim Hof method
Yeah, I
or
think
what
it's
it?
yeah, I think it's also about finding what works for you. I don't know exactly into how it goes, but in maybe in mindfulness also there's a lot of breathing exercises as well. That you breathe in through your belly, then you hold on, breathe out through your mouth, and it's also various way of holding. So there's also many of them as well. So then I think, but then if this other method works for you well, but yeah, I'm not sure how safe it is. I think it's
Yeah,
because I read heard someone I think died
that
from
I've read as well. There is
yeah.
empirical research saying it's good for you, but because the sample size is so small, it's a risk because yeah, for it has to be on your health as well and how you're doing, etc., etc. If you're doing such deep breathing exercises while your heart is a bit weak, then you can imagine it being complicated because you're doing really deep breathing, so your heart has to really pump harder than usual, and then you also stop yourself from breathing. I think after 30 or 60 breaths you take a break and you just stop breathing, and then you stop
Mm,
breathing till as long as you can hold it. And I went up to like 2 minutes, two and a
mm,
half minutes, and this was me doing it for like first few times. Some people claim that they can go all the way to 10 minutes after this exercise because you
mm,
you do such deep breathing that there's so much oxygen in your blood that you can manage to go for quite a long time.
mm,
But yeah, you can imagine someone being really over with this mentality, and then does some brain damage to themselves because they're like, no, I can do it. But
mm.
as you
Yes,
said,
yes.
it needs to work for you. Meditation
Yeah.
and mindfulness is very interesting and intense, but yeah, as I said, it's a struggle. What are your thoughts about falling asleep? Do you have a way do you have a way or something that you can help those of us who just fall asleep when they're meditating?
Hmm. I suppose, yeah, so maybe if you mentioned, yeah, so one thing, it's also good that if you fell asleep easily, that means maybe I guess you also don't have problems falling asleep in general.
I don't.
Uh,
My wife is very jealous
uh,
of that. I can fall
oh,
asleep on a
yes.
train, I can fall asleep on the side of the road.
Yeah, because
But
yeah, I can also tell some examples. Sometimes I do have trouble falling asleep, but if during the day I do a mindfulness, I fell asleep really easily in the night because I
yeah.
also learned myself to calm down. So
Hmm.
for those who have the opposite problem, who have difficulty falling asleep, for them it's can be good. But if you do fall asleep, yeah, maybe me myself, I do now only guided meditation. Something I don't know if one of them is better or worse. I think it's just
Yeah.
important that you practice. So maybe if guided helps for you, and yeah, if it's and also often we highlight in meditation is often not about falling asleep, so maybe it trying to a lot of practices in mindfulness is about focusing on your breath. So yeah, trying to truly be on your breath and
Hmm.
still trying to be conscious about it. Yeah, not about trying to doze off, but about being mindful what happens in your body, yeah, without trying to get into this sleepy mode. So still trying to be conscious, but not about daily troubles, but about the other things in the surroundings.
Yeah, I understand. I think it would be interesting to see. I will try to apply some of this to my next meditation session. I don't do guided. I just put a timer on my phone, on my watch for like 10-15 minutes, and then I just breathe and breathe. I do start with a body scan, and then after the body scan I just move to breathing till,
Mm,
because that's the way I learned from the app Headspace. Then I just keep repeating that one. So till my hand rings, I'm just breathing, but after a while I
mm,
just go like, okay, why hasn't my hand rang yet? It's so annoying. I don't open my eyes, but I'm actively thinking about it. And then
mm,
my mind wanders off to something else, like, oh, I have to do this today. Oh, I was just, how's the little one doing? And by the time I know it, it starts ringing,
mm.
and
Oh,
then I don't know what works, what doesn't
oh.
work. But
Oh, so do
this,
you practice every day, or?
yes, I have a routine thanks to the little one, so I do it every day. But I don't do it on the weekends, because
Mm,
I feel like if I do every day, 7 days a week, I wake up at 6 in the morning. I think it'll get annoying after a while because you need to, like, you need to have some break of structure. I believe routine is always nice, but also you should have some periods of no routine. So I try to make my weekends free
mm,
and my weekdays
yeah.
completely structured. So that
So it's also
the
like a
yeah.
routine.
Yeah, so meditation does fall in my weekdays, and then on the weekends I don't do it.
Mm,
All
oh,
right.
nice.
So let's try one last one. Then we can go a little bit more into the details. Let's go for which one would you like to talk about from the list that we have in front of us?
Yeah, maybe also about mhm. Yeah, you wanted to talk maybe about this positive thinking. So yeah, we can also yeah do
Yeah,
that.
yes. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about positive thinking?
Yeah, maybe also in cognitive behavioral therapy, at least this word of positive thinking is often like a bit criticized, and we
Yeah.
often recommended to have rather adaptive thinking, which is because often what causes people to have really negative or extreme emotions is this unadaptive thinking, with really thoughts which are distorted, not based on reality. So, for example, we often think something like really negative. So then in cognitive behavioral therapy, we is being tried to change the thoughts, not to the positive ones, but to the realistic ones and adaptive ones. That
Hmm.
like your thoughts are, it's not that bad as you think, or the, so when in but in positive psychology, is often like we don't notice ourselves how many thoughts we have. We are just also focusing on what goes wrong. It's and
Hmm.
in positive psychology, it's also tried to really stop and see what I am telling to myself.
Yeah.
And because often we are telling quite maybe many negative things to ourselves and trying to spot it that we have it and trying to reframe it in and some positive light. So, for example, maybe you mentioned that you have a daughter. It's a bit some troubles now because maybe you have to wake up in the night, but you reframed it really positively. That you are really happy with it, and it really outweighs all the disadvantages. It seems.
Yeah.
So, and it's also about noticing what is. So, like reframing is often used technique. So, if
Hmm.
something negative happens, to always try to reframe it and see what's good in it. So, for example, like before I hurt my leg, and I thought it was the summer, in the middle of the summer, so I thought like, I will spend all the summer at home. So at first I was feeling really down
Yeah.
because I also couldn't walk normally. But then I thought like, oh, it's a good possibility to spend a lot of time on my work, to really finish it, to start it going. And I think it was still quite good time, and I still find ways how to still move despite it. And then because I chose to focus of what is benefit, what is positive in there. So I think in also
Yeah.
in general in psychology, if someone gets really bad medical illness, at first there's a lot of shock, a lot of denial, but sometimes people still find also meaning and positive in it as well. For example, it can help us them to revalue their life or change the direction of it to a more positive one.
Hmm.
So it's in positive psychology, it's often recommended to see positive and negative. For example, we also
Hmm.
maybe know the people who still thrive despite obstacles or who thrive in obstacles, and we see those who really go deep down when they encounter obstacles. So I think what maybe this
Yeah.
bit of positive thinking might be one of a factor which differentiates.
Yeah, yeah, that's definitely true. I do have a really nice story about this. My wife's friend works in healthcare, so she's in a doctor. And as I said about the book that I was reading, Behave, right? That it's about not just our body and our biology and our genes shape our behavior, but our behavior also shapes our genes in a way, right? So it's a synergy, it's a symbiosis, not really a one way thing. So our behaviors and our mentality can really help us in fighting of illnesses. Now, the Dutch people are remarkably famous for being very simple-minded when it comes to this. That's what the word they use, nuchter, I've heard, but I do not know if that is a term that is not used appropriately or not. So I do apologize in advance, but that's what I've heard. Uh, and the story goes like there was this 85-year-old woman who came to my wife's friend's office, and she said that she has a little bit of pain here and there. So she was old. So when you're old, you want to be safe. So you do all the tests, all the possible tests to see if she has any disease. And she had a lot of diseases. She had cancer from a certain stage. She had failing stuff in her body, and my the doctor friend was genuinely shocked. She said that I am surprised that you're able to walk. That's how your body is right now. How are you handling it? I don't know. So she said, okay, so what do we do? How do we fix this? They're like, okay, we're going to try therapy, we're going to try chemo, we're going to try those many things. She said, I'm not joking. 6 months later, she walked out of the hospital disease free. All because her mind was so chill and so relaxed that I trust the process, I will work it out, it will happen, I don't have anything to worry about. While in Pakistan, for example, you people do get cancer, and in my experience, so it's a very short sample size, but mostly when people get cancer around me in my neighborhood or when I hear about it, almost always they die within a year or something, because it's not just the cancer that is the problem, but also the fact that in Pakistan there's so much stress and taboo around cancer that you're not supposed to talk about it, and oh my god, God is punishing me. So they're reframing not positively but negatively, and that accelerates their disease, that makes it worse. Another example would be, there's this movie, I do not know if you've seen it, but this movie about this grandmother in China. So in
Mhm.
China, there's a very interesting concept for cancer. In China, you do not tell the person they have cancer.
Mhm.
It's apparently a thing. You do not tell
Mhm.
the person you have cancer. You tell their next of kin. So if the man has cancer, the wife knows. If the wife has cancer, the man knows. But the person who has cancer is not
Wow.
supposed to know. It's a taboo. The story or the reasoning behind it is the same, that if we tell them, that they're going to start worrying about this,
Mhm.
so they don't tell. So this grandmother had cancer, the grandfather already passed away because of cancer, so the grandmother's sister was told by the doctor that she has cancer. And the protagonist of the movie, the girl, the granddaughter, came from the US to visit the grandmother in China. So she was not happy about this. She's from the US, a different mindset. They're like, you're supposed to tell the person, you're supposed to start treatment and all of that stuff, and they're like, we don't do that here. Here, she has cancer. The doctors told me we're not supposed to tell her. All we need to do is make her do good. So she's taking her medication and she needs to live normally. So she was doing Tai Chi, that exercise that they do in the park. And she never knew she had cancer. This was a true story. 3 4 years down the line, and she, I think, at stage 3 or stage 4, stage 3, I think. 3 4 years down the line, the movie ended saying that she's still alive, still well, doing Tai Chi, and she still doesn't know that she has cancer. So the idea behind it is that our brain is such a powerful mechanism, it creates our own reality. So using
Mhm.
positive psychology or positive affirmations, you can create your reality to be positive or adaptive, or you can create it to be negative. And I think that's a
Mhm.
very, very interesting concept in a story. So I would like to wrap it up. I think we had a wonderful conversation, and I think we got our listeners a lot of different skills and frameworks that they can utilize in their own lives. Please let us know if any of these worked for you. In Spotify, you can also leave us what voice notes immediately in the app to let us know how you felt about this episode. Did you try something? Did you like something? Did you not like something? How's your experience been? Whatever is the case. And before we leave, Indre, do you have any final thoughts on
Yeah.
positive psychology?
Yeah, so maybe something like to add there that investing in positive psychology is like investment because the more you practice with gratitude or anything else, the people will notice they will also be happier, they will be nicer to you, and you will also be happier. And also, the more you do with good things to yourself, you will also feel better. And also, it shows that people who are more like mindful, more grateful, or more positive, they sleep better, they eat better, and then you also are happier and also want to do it more. So I think it's like a really worthwhile investment to do. So then I would, yeah, I think never it's never too late to start. And I think the more you will do it, the more you will like train this muscle of focusing on something you are not used to
Yeah,
before.
I agree with you completely. I think it's basically like exercise, right? Why do we will exercise? Really, because we want to be healthy and we do not have want to have any health problems going forward. Well, positive psychology or investing in psychology is a way of you training your mind so that you do not have mental illnesses down the line. The concept is exactly the same. And like you have gym instructors who guide you when you want to be healthier, you have psychologists that guide you if you want to be mentally healthier. And I feel like the industry has its own taboos, and of course a lot of people are not comfortable thinking of it in this perspective. They think, as you said, more of a disease point of view. So it is difficult. Me and my wife have been trying to start couples therapy, and not because we have any problems, but because I sincerely believe this was the year we got married. So imagine the year you get married, the happiest year of your life, it's the honeymoon phase, and I go to my wife and I go like, you know what, we need to start couples therapy. And she was shocked. She was like, aren't you happy? What happened? And I'm like, no, I am happy. But that
Okay.
is exactly, I want to start couples therapy because I want to stay happy. I don't want us
Mm,
to lose the happiness and then later on start therapy thinking we can fix it. If we start already, we will be able to nip it in the bud, right? Whenever the
mhm,
problems are starting to arise, it'll show up in our conversations and then we can immediately fix it instead of it boiling over years or decades. But I still haven't managed to convince her. She's still not in favor of it. She's still like,
Oh, because people really have this association with it's something negative. But I think
exactly.
what I
Yeah.
also have, it's also could be very good preventative tool, or even if it's very good, it can even make it even better
Yeah.
because you maybe don't know how good it could be. So I think it's a really
Exactly,
good step that
exactly.
you decided to
Yeah,
take.
but as you can see, it is difficult, and I can understand why it's difficult for some. But it takes time, and I think the conversation we want to have here is to make everyone aware that it's normal and okay to go out and seek therapy or psychological support. That's why I don't like to call it help. A lot of people say seeking help, but that means there is a problem that you want to help. Right? It's not really seeking. When you go to the gym, you're not seeking help, you're seeking support. Right, so what you're trying to do here is you're trying to seek support, a person who can guide you better, or a person who can co-create with you something of meaning. So I really would recommend anyone who's interested to try this out for themselves, see if you want support. I will list down Indra's details. If you think Indra is the one that you resonate with, you can always reach out to her for to see if she has space for you guys. And if you want to reach out to me just as a conversation, I'm always all ears. So that's always nice. So I think that's mostly it for today. Indre, anything else you want to add?
Yeah, yeah, and also you mentioned you also coach, and coaches are also ones which also specializes on increasing human talent and strength and positive. So I'm not sure exactly how you specialize in coaching, but I think can be also excellent tool to learn to increase the positive.
Yeah,
So
indeed, indeed, indeed. I think it's all about being an external thinking partner. I really don't think you cannot have enough. Like you have your gym partner, you have your psychologist, you should also have your financial coach, your accountant who helps you with your money. The same is with a coach who can help you think and see where your goals are. But thank you so much for the shout out, Andre, and thank
thanks
you
for you as
everyone
well.
else for listening in. So I will call it a day and talk to you soon.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. Have a good day.
Yeah,
Thanks.
bye bye.